yesterday on the danger of using proceeds from land sales, which make up our reserves, to fund expenditure. That is not to say reserves cannot be used. The way the budget is a guarantee subject to President's approval, which is in turn secured by the reserves. Payment obligations on the loans would also fall on the future generation. The 50% in favor of one or another. This better represents our Asian values. Once we change this, it'll be a slippery slope. And there'll be a tendency to adjust a higher percentage to accommodate for higher expenditure. This is my answer to Honourable Member Professor Mahadev Mohan, who suggested in his speech yesterday that the government listen to views expressed by some Singaporeans that the NIRC rate should be increased. Mr. Speaker, sir, may I speak in Tamil, please? நேற்று பேராசிரியர் மாதேவ் மோகன் மக்களின் வருவாய் திரட்டும் எண்ணங்களை அரசாங்கம் செவிசாய்க்க வேண்டும் என்பதை பற்றி பேசினார். நான் ஒப்புக்கொள்கிறேன். ஆனால் இது மட்டும் போதாது. பலருக்கும் பல கருத்துகள் உள்ளன இருக்கலாம். அப்படி இருக்கும்போது அரசாங்கம் மக்களுக்கு எந்த அணுகுமுறை பொருந்தும் என்பதை யோசித்து முடிவு செய்ய வேண்டும். எடுத்த முடிவை அரசாங்கம் மக்களுக்கு தெளிவாக எடுத்து கூற வேண்டும். In English. Next, the concrete steps in providing greater support for families recognize the primacy of the family as a basic unit of society and the important role it plays in nation building. Finally, the programs to support individuals, especially our seniors, is consonant with the value of community support and respect for the individuals. For these reasons, I support the budget because it accords with our shared values. Before I leave this speech, at this point, I would like to return to an aspect of the speech Ms. Kwek made in reference to JC and poly students she spoke to, constantly using the word uncertain when asked to describe their future. If I were there at the discussion, I would acknowledge that indeed, our future as a nation, as individuals, has and will always be uncertain. This has been the case since 1965. We survived because we remained together, worked hard, putting the nation before community and community before self. I would point out that we are in a better situation than before because of prudent and forward-thinking government. I would highlight the importance of being resilient and the need for the students to be the best they can be for themselves, their families, and our country. If our youths can accept this, we can be sure that we will have a strong future. Having said that, I have 3 observations to make on the budget. First, the wage credit scheme. Minister Heng decided to extend the WCS to overcome near-term challenges because, in his words, some firms remain concerned about business costs, even though our economy has picked up. We therefore will see a second extension of the WCS, which has been running since 2013. Based on estimates, government would have committed up to $7.2 billion for this program. For the period 2013 to 2015, it's about $3.6 billion. 2016 to 2017, $1.8 billion, and an additional $1.8 billion for the next 3 years. In 2015, when the government first proposed the extension of the WCS in Parliament, concerns were raised in this House. The Honourable Member, Professor Randolph Tan, warned that WCS may land up in delaying adjustments that businesses should make in order to complete restructuring. In other words, WCS should not unwittingly become a wage subsidy crutch. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Tharman, explained that there is a need to adopt a phased approach while foreign manpower policy is tightened and labour market becomes tighter. Otherwise, there will be an impact on weaker businesses, especially startups. There's also a need to support those who are rejoining the economy and may need time to enhance their skills and increase their productivity. I support this approach, but given that this is a second time an extension is being sought, I'm of the view that the WCS criteria should be sharpened so that we focus on firms who are concerned about business costs. I do not see why a muscular company, say a government-linked company or listed company, can benefit from WCS in the same way as a small enterprise. Also, the drivers for WCS, when implemented in 2013, were the need to improve productivity and tight labour market. Productivity growth for 2017 is 4.5%, highest since 2010. Citizen unemployment rate for 2017, based on MOM's preliminary figures, stands at 3.3%, better than 2013, when it was 2.9%. So in light of the improved situation, why does the government see a need to further extend WCS by another 3 years, which is a year longer than the first extension, which was for 2 years? Second point, promoting partnership. Minister Heng identified the forging of strong partnerships as a third key enabler to capture future opportunities, especially in Asia and ASEAN in particular. He pointed out, competition is not only the driving force in our economy, cooperation is also key. He went on to identify platforms for partnership such as PACT, Global Innovation Alliance, ASEAN Innovation Network, and announced the setup of the Infrastructure Office. I support the focus on capturing future opportunities in Asia and ASEAN to grow the Singapore economy. There is, however, a need to overcome the default mindset of companies which are used to competing with each other. This will not be easy. Also, PACT contemplates large organizations to partner small companies. This is not a partnership of equals. Recognizing this in a BT article published on 8th of November 2016, Mr. Lim Hui Seng and Ms. Bernadine Huang of PwC stated as follows: this scheme remains out of reach of the smaller scale SMEs. More often than not, large organizations will choose to work with bigger SMEs and not the smaller ones. We suggest for PACT to be extended to allow bigger scale SMEs to work together with smaller scale SMEs and not just large organizations vis-a-vis SMEs. How would the government promote the forging of strong partnerships in these circumstances? In particular, how would it ensure that the smaller SMEs would benefit from PACT? This is especially important in the technology space, where there are a good number of startups and small companies which could potentially benefit from venturing overseas in partnership with large organizations. I note that in the 2001 Economic Review Committee report, which was issued in 2003, a similar call was made. It promoted a cluster approach amongst companies venturing overseas, where larger companies lead a cluster of enterprises, including SMEs. May I ask, what has been the government's experience in promoting such partnerships? What lessons can we draw from the past? Final point, strengthening social safety nets for those in need. I'm very heartened to note the concrete plans for the budget 2018 to build on the SG Care movement. On the aspect of financial support for charities, I note that the total donations have increased from $2 billion in 2011 to $2.7 billion in 2017. One big contributor is Tote Board, through its grant-making activities across sectors such as arts, community development, education, health, social service, and sports. In FY 16-17, Tote Board approved disbursements of $459 million to these sectors. This amounts to about 17% of the donations. In the past 5 financial years, beginning from 2012, Tote Board collected an average of $150 million from casino entry levies per year, which is used to fund its grant-making activities. Casino entry levies have not changed since 2010, not even adjusted for inflation over the past 8 years. May I ask why this is so? Increasing the casino entry levy will enhance the safeguard to protect Singaporeans and PRs from the ill effects of gambling, and at the same time, allow charities to be better supported through Tote Board's grant-making activities. With that, I support the bill, the budget.